Good morning or good night, Gacha Kingdom. On Monday this week, I was met by Seth, and Seth told me that public security was after my ass for research that I didn't even do. One of my moots, Kit, made a video about zenless zzzero men lactating from their chest. Apparently, it made the rounds in public security that Seth and Severian both consented for this research, and apparently, I guess the higher ups, higher than Severian, didn't like that very much. And in the contract that Kit made up, it said that it was me who was responsible for all the research. Now they're after my ass, so I've been hiding underground for the past couple of days. But they are off my tail because apparently there's even bigger evil afoot. Which leads to today's video protagonist, which is me. If I was going to be tracked down by public security, it better be research that I did myself, not because somebody else was quicker on the draw than I was. Even though I do love all my moots, I wanted to do something like that. Well, I still could, but today I'm going to be figuring out who is the muskiest, is that a word, of the zenless zzzero men cast. There are a few exceptions. I didn't ask Shuyen because I don't know where the hell he is. I didn't ask Damien because if I did, then my ass would definitely go to jail, which, I mean, I guess would be worth it because then I can ask Romeo, but then I would be dead. So I asked as many people that I could. Now, there are a few things that we need to address before we start huffing people's armpits. First off, Zara Larson style, boost. There is a difference between musky and musty. Musty refers to the smell of damp and moldiness, like a cave or a Motel 6 shower. Musky refers to the smell that most people would describe as bad odor because it's quite literally sweat. The sweat coming off of an animal or a human when they work out a lot, and or maybe it's just hot, and then the sweat dries up, and then that is the smell of musk. Now, as I just said 5 seconds ago, most people will describe musk as a BO for the most part. Some people love the smell of sweaty men. I mean, like, just the idea of it is the reason why I don't want to go to a gym. Kind of terrifies me. But I do recognize there is a very fine line in between anime Comic-Con convention soup and oh, I want to be sandwiched in between two sweaty gym bros that just got off of the treadmill like about 2 seconds ago. So for the simplicity of this video, I'm going to be basing the zenless zzero's men muskiness scale based off how heavy their muskiness is. You know, like how artists visually show off that their armpits are sweaty and they smell, and it's like a transparency musk bubble. It's like that. Like if it's light, then that means that it's not that bad, or maybe it's like in the middle, but if it's like straight up like dark, like a dialogue circle, then that's like some heavy ass shit. To start with light work, no reaction, to ease us into the heavier stuff, I have banyue and silly because they don't have any musky smell to them at all. I asked Grace if intelligent constructs have a sweat gland module or some kind of like sweat production mod, I guess, to reproduce sweat just like humans. Apparently, intelligent constructs that look like humans, they produce sweat and therefore produce the smell of musk. However, intelligent constructs that don't look like humans, they don't have that type of quote cooling system. According to Grace, intelligent constructs are kind of similar to PCs, but like a liquid coolant PC build, where there's coolant running in them to make sure that their insides are cool, even though on the outside they might be hot. The next category of men are men that genuinely don't like the smell of musk, so they take like 2 showers and also have like a whole ass daytime, nighttime cleaning routine to make sure that they don't actually smell like sweat, or because of their line of work and they can't come into work smelling like a 20-person sauna. Instead, they probably smell like a cologne or deodorant that they swear. Harumasa being a good example because quite literally, canonically, harumasa is good smelling. I don't remember what the girls said when harumasa was surrounded by fangirls and they're like, oh my gosh, you smell so good, oh my god, no way. Because Seth is a public security officer, he has to smell his cleanest. He decided to land on like this really nice snow-esque smell type deodorant, but like that good like ambiance type smell. When you pick up a candle and it says avalanche, but it actually smells good. Not like some fake ass shit where, side tangent a little bit, to me and my friends, we went to like this beach town and then we went to this like semi fake bougie gift store and they had a candle that was supposed to smell like the beach, and I opened the lid and smelt it and it smelled like bleach. I was like, what the fuck? But not Seth. Seth has gotten like these like luxury shampoos and body washes and deodorant, probably because Severian has told him that this is the stuff to actually smell good with. And like Severian got a point, because when you're around Seth smells like you went out into a bougie ski lodge and there's natural snow, the forest and the logs and oaks. How the fuck they get that into deodorant? Sally and Miss Severian. Severian is currently up in Rose Califord trying to figure out what the fuck is going on up there. But from my memory, Severian had a very clean smelling smell. It wasn't like straight up like sterile, but it was kind of like a minty smell, like a ice cube peppermint smell type smell, where if you wanted to smell clean, it's like stereotypically kind of like a minty smell. I wonder if that type of product stings. I would rather be showering with Seth than in Severian. Like, well, I would rather be showering with Severian, but to actually like smell clean and be clean, it would be with Seth. Like, Seth was showing me the type of bath bombs he uses when he goes into a bath. I was like, wow, these are so cute. I never knew bath bombs could be this cute. To close out the clean smelling category is Von Lycaon. It's really impressive how much Von Lycaon can clean off the sweaty wolf smell, especially with how hard he goes on missions and stuff like that. I know what sweaty wolf smells like. I've smelt Moors before, and good lord, man, that motherfucker need a shower. With the combination of Von Lycaon working for Victoria Housekeeping, so he has to keep the reputation of very prestigious and proper intact, so he can't smell like a sweaty wolf, even though I think a lot of us would love to smell what Von Lycaon really smelt like when he was running around being a phantom thief and stuff like that. I guess I should have asked Hugo that when I was asking him to smell his armpits. And then Victoria Housekeeping gotta be paying them up the fucking wazoo, because Ellen, when she's not in a maid outfit or in a schoolgirl outfit, she's walking around with Michael Kors or Dior. Like, damn, girl, okay. Now, even though Lycaon does splurge on a Calvin Klein suit here and there, I do think most of Lycaon's spending is making sure that his fur is well kept. And it's been paying off. His fur is so nice and silky. It's almost like a bed. It really is like a pillow when you really like put your face right into it. It also doesn't really have a smell to it, because all these products don't have a natural smell to them. Well, okay, the smell of clean, like I said with Severian, a quote clean smelling product is usually brought with like a lemon smell or like a minty smell, but in reality, clean, like the smell of clean, doesn't really actually smell like anything. And to quote from Lycaon, he doesn't use a scented product to make sure that his fur doesn't have a lingering smell to it when he's using different types of products that does have smells to it, like the Purple Fabuloso, so that he doesn't mix up the purple fabulosa with himself. So if you really want to like ease your way into the musky territory and stuff like that, asking lycaon to like not take a shower and to get some huffs and stuff like that, well, I mean, I guess if you were a client of Victoria Housekeeping, he would raise an eyebrow and then like, are you sure? And then you nod your head and he'd be like, okay, well, if that makes you happy, go right ahead. Day 2 of finishing out this audio talking about zenless zone men muskiness. Do y'all remember when I made like short ass videos? Man, what happened? The next category is pretty small in the grand scheme of things, but it is worth mentioning that there are 2 guys that don't really have that strong of a sweaty scent. To introduce us to this category is Mr. Hugo Vlad himself. Hugo, for a lot of mixture of reasons, doesn't really have a very strong musky smell. Not only because he's a phantom thief and he has to steal stuff properly and not leave a scent behind, because if he did, the public security will just be able to follow the scent and go right straight back to Mockingbird's base, which would be terrible. I also get the feeling that Hugo has to make sure he's clean and like semi-proper all the time, because Vivian and Robin won't allow him to be smelly, because if he did have like max muskiness that his body could produce, they would be like, I can't let Faithin know that we're like absolute heathens. Even though I think Wise would be into it. I mean, look at his boyfriend. I'll talk about him later. But it's all about perception. We can't let Faithin know that we're kind of homeless and we can't afford showers. Go take one. Even at max allowance muskiness allowed by Vivian and Robin, Hugo doesn't really have a very strong smell compared to all the other guys that I'm going to be talking about. Probably because of a lot of factors like him being a Twinkie, him being relying on Twinkies. He's an ice element unit, so when he swings around an ice scythe and stuff like that, he cools his body down so he doesn't really sweat that much. I don't know, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really tell you the reasons why he doesn't have as strong of a musky smell compared to everybody else. However, according to Vivian, when she comes back to Mockingbird base when Von Lycaon is around, that's the strongest that Hugo has smelt like, which I can't attest to because he has never allowed anybody else into the Mockingbird base except for Vivian and Robin when Lycaon is around, but Vivian doesn't want to be around when Lycaon and Hugo are in the same room. So I did say earlier this was a very small category, and the only other men in this category might surprise you. It's Ben. Because Ben does most of his stuff in his semi-air conditioned office, because when it's like 100 degrees, we have to make sure Ben can focus on doing finances and stuff like that, because Grace keeps spending money. So for the most part, Ben isn't really sweaty, and most of his natural bear smell is what he usually smells like when he's just in the office trying to make sure that Bellabog doesn't go under. That said, Ben does help with construction when people call out and stuff like that. So instead of being the financial manager, he's out and about with Anton helping the construction of the battle tower that's finally being constructed. Thank God. When this happens, Ben's muskiness category is pushed from the low tier to the mid tier, which the mid tier muskiness is like the typical musky bubbles that you see after somebody's done like a hard day's work, and you get a whiff of them. You're like, oh my God, can I get a whiff of that straight from the source? Holy shit. Now, if you're scared of going to the gym because you can't keep your composure, you definitely don't want to go to Bellabog Heavy Industries right around afternoon time, because that is when a lot of the Bear Thyrans and also Anton take their break in the afternoon. And let me just tell you, that break room is absolutely insane. Thankfully, to some of you, not thankfully, Ben doesn't really actually hang out in the break room. Well, he does sometimes to hang out with Anton and the other boys, but he has to go back to his office and work out the financials and stuff like that, because the battle tower ain't cheap. In his office, right after like doing a hard work job, Ben usually has an air freshener ready that's smelling like black ice inside of one of those like automatic shooter Febreze aha ass things, and it smells pretty nice. But you know what smells even nicer is Ben's jacket. He accidentally threw it at me when I entered his office and went straight for my head. First of all, his jacket is way heavier than I thought. Like, that motherfucker would be like 30 pounds. That fucking hurt. And second of all, it was heavy in sweat, and that shit smelled good. Now, we are going to take a little bit of a detour, even though it wouldn't make sense to talk about Anton while we are in Belobog. We're going to go to Waife Peninsula and talk about Pan Yinhu. Because Pan Yinhu is the only full Thyran in Severian Temple, don't tell Lafufu I said that, he can get away with having like a heavier scented smell because, well, he's the only one that has like full on fur. Not only that, but Yinhu is usually in the kitchen between morning and afternoon time, and that's usually when Severian Temple has the most visitors. So he can mask the fact that he's sweaty and his natural scent and stuff like that with all the spices and ingredients that he's using that day to make fried rice. And instead of smelling like panda, it smells like Panda Express. Yinhu's usually done with his morning afternoon shift when the afternoon is turning to evening. You know, when it's like 5 to 6 o'clock when the sun is still up, but you don't know if the sun's going to be up for another hour or is it going to be up for another 10 minutes. And he's usually just outside cooling down and while all the equipment is getting washed and stuff like that. That's when I was able to actually get a good whiff of him and not just of the onions. It's fascinating that the smells of a kitchen with steaming rice and also frying woks and stuff like that, all those smells can transfer onto a person while they're like sweating it up themselves because it's steamy and humid and stuff like that. It almost smells like he never left the kitchen. It's really nice smelling if you like the smell of freshly steamed rice with like a mixture of like cooking oil in there. It's like a natural deodorant with how much Yinhu's usually in the kitchen, and then by the time that he does go out and does training and stuff like that, it's usually late night, so there's usually no visitors, only disciples walking around Severian Temple, and even then all the disciples are usually asleep. That's usually when the kitchen smell starts dissipating off of Pan Yinhu and starts getting replaced with his natural musky panda-ness smell, and that's when it's like, oh, this is like the real type shit that, well, I don't think Yi Xuan would allow usually at the day, because that stuff might be a deterrent, might actually be an attraction for some people, but for most people it would be a deterrent. But because Yinhu's, you know, again, in the kitchen cooking up Wi-Fi onions and stuff like that, most people are like, ooh, that shit smells good. Depending on the time that you catch Manato doing his 5,000 jobs and also going to school and also being a single father of 2 kids, he can vary in smells, but it's usually pretty mild. It's never really low, but I mean, like, I guess it is low if you catch him like right outside of the shower, but it's actually not really heavy either. I first thought that it was pretty heavy, but then I got some like heavy smells and I was like, oh yeah, no, it's not that bad. Kind of like a very similar situation to Hugo and Vivian. I don't think Yuzaha and Ache and Ayue would allow Manato to leave the house and or Spook Shack if he smelled like a gym locker room. Like, according to Yuzaha, right after Manato got off of work from a construction job in Silum Bay, they went into the hollow and he smelled so, quote, bad that only like the male ethereals would show up and try to pick a fight with him and stuff like that. Yeah, ever since then, he was not allowed to ever smell like that if they were ever to go into the hollow. Speaking of a gym locker room, let's talk about Anton back in Belobog Industries. He's kind of like an exponential muskiness scale where he starts his day in the morning, he works out to, you know, gotta make sure you get those stretches in before you start taking 50 pounds of rebar up and down Belobog Industries, am I right? And he's not that bad, and he puts on deodorant and then he goes out and does a 8-hour, 10-hour, who knows how long shift, and then like that's when the deodorant wears off and it starts getting pretty exponential. If you were curious, yes, he considers Axe body spray a deodorant. Midday during construction of the battle tower, his smell is pretty mild, just like all the other guys that were mild. You know, Manato, Yinhu, Ben, at the end of the day. There was just this lingering smell of Axe body spray, which honestly, that's like, like the hugest turn off when it comes to musk. If you mix that in, oh lord, I need to step away. I went over, I took Ben's sample, I got hit with his jacket, 30-pound jacket by the way. That struck me idea. I was like, oh, I'll just go ask Anton if I could get a whiff of his jacket. And when I went into the break room and there was a lot less guys in there, so it was like, can keep my composure in there. I went up to Anton, I was like, hey, can I like check out your jacket real quick? And he was like, yeah, sure bro. He handed me his jacket and that John was like even heavier than Ben's. Like it wasn't even as wet as Ben's. I was like, what the fuck? Did like Calydon figure out how to invent like steel fabric? Because these jaws are heavy. Steel fabric aside, let me just tell you, we have left the mild tier and we are now in the heavy tier of muskiness. The opacity of the scent bubbles straight from their armpits is no longer a screen tone that's 50 to 75. We are just straight up dialogue bubbles. This is like the point of no return. If you are in these men's armpits and you love it, more power to you, because it's really overpowering even for me. Maybe I'm not as freak-a-leak as I thought I was by PD Pablo, but oh my lord, one scent from these guys' armpits, I damn near ascended to heaven. At least Anton was very nice about it when I asked him if I could smell his armpits, and he was like, oh yeah bro, don't worry, if this is for a research project, yeah, hell yeah man. And then he busted out the movement, the arm behind his head while he was drinking a water bottle from his other hand. Yeah, ooh man, lord. That leaves two elephants in the room that we have not talked about, and they're both in the outer ring. Yeah, it's Lighter and Big Daddy, but let's talk about Lighter first, because Lighter is kind of a la like Anton, where he starts his day off as not that bad, and because he uses a lot of Caesar's products, and because Caesar's like a low-key, high-key shoujo girly, she's like, oh, Lighter, you gotta try these, and it's like strawberry scented Bath and Body Works shampoo, conditioner, body wash, whatever else that you can put on your body. I don't know, I don't go to Bath and Body Works, but like, it's really like a nice strawberry sweet scented type stuff, and Lighter's just like, oh okay, and he starts his day off smelling really nice. I almost want to like bite into him because he smells so much like strawberry. But just like Anton's Axe body spray, when Lighter is standing around Blazewood when it's like 90 to 100 degrees in full biker leather gear on bikes and stuff like that, the strawberry smell of Bath and Body Works can only last so long. On the other hand, Big Daddy doesn't use any of Caesar's Bath and Body Works product. He only uses good old 13-in-1, also shampoo, also peanut butter and jelly, also bread, shampoo and conditioner all in one. When he's around, you know, he's not doing much, but as I said with Lighter, when you're in Blazewood, it's 90 to 100 degrees and you're in a full out leather biker gang outfit, just hanging around, you're about to get pretty sweaty and smelly. Let me just tell you, Big Daddy, when he's at peak sweatiness and smelliness, you can smell the life experiences from that man. And it doesn't travel far either, now that I'm looking at my research notes. It's really interesting. It's almost like an aura around him. That musky leather smell doesn't actually travel very far. If you're within like really close to Big Daddy, yeah, you're gonna fucking smell it. But like if you're like counter to counter, like going to Cheesetopia where Casa is, being the cashier and then taking Big Daddy's order, you actually don't smell it. You're more than likely gonna smell like the cheeseburgers that are being burnt by Bernice back in the back before you can actually smell Big Daddy, unless again you were right next to him. Now I may have flown too close to the sun, Kid Icarus uprising style, and I asked if I could join Lighter and Big Daddy inside the Sons of Calydon shower, and it Oh man, the two of them combined, it was way too much for me, and I lost control, and I blacked out. According to Lucy, our shower was 2 hours ish long, and it was definitely not a shower at that point. I don't know what happened, but my back fucking hurts now. The good news is that not only can I join Lighter and Big Daddy whenever I'm in the outer ring for a shower with them, which is absolutely exciting. I can't wait to get some research out of that. But Big Daddy allowed me to make an air freshener out of him, which that's going to take a bit more finessing and research and manufacturing for me to get some air fresheners so that you too can smell Big Daddy straight from the outer ring in your house. Do y'all think that there's an air freshener manufacturer and or candle manufacturer that's crazy enough to approve my idea of a leather musky has been out in the sun for the perfect amount of days smelling candle air freshener? If you are that manufacturer and you're watching this video, you'll hit me up.